health driven they were. You go into a meeting, I'm not sure we use this technique anymore on the board, and there were big posters of people, fake kind of personas, a state office of rural health director, where they lived, how they used it, a human services resource person, a picture of them, so we could really imagine the possibilities of who would use the services. And I think that's just a nice, you know, and it frames up that that RHIhub is always thinking of what are the resources that rural people need. And there is a State Office of Rural Health persona included as they dissect those issues and we look at them. For myself personally, I teach the Grant Writing Institute for NOSOR. We get, honestly, hundreds of folks, and I end up talking about RHIhub when I talk about data. I end up talking about it when I talk about program concepts, that there's an evidence bank there. I end up talking about it when I'm talking about tools for evaluation, because it's all there. And I tell people, probably shouldn't say this, but they can make a drinking game out of every time they see RHIhub, right? I'm going to sound like I have a problem. We really know that that's an important resource. And then one thing I'd say to state offices of rural health, especially those of you who are new, one of the ways that you can easily accomplish your technical assistance role for grants and other things for your stakeholders in your state is to say the words RHIhub and give them a link and check out those state profiles. And Christine's going to talk a lot about that as well, and get your feedback. And so the feedback that you give is just so important. Christine, I hope that you know how much we love the work that you and your team do there.
Ah, shucks, thanks.
Sorry.
All right, Christy, did you want to chime in before I go through my slides?
Yeah, thank you. So I personally love RHIhub. Within our office, as I'm sure all of you at the state level do too, we get questions on just the most random topics from people from the outside or other federal colleagues of like, what is the rural angle of this? And so having that RHIhub resource is amazing, because you'll think, oh, I don't know if RHIhub will have something on here. And then you go and there's like resources, definitions, links to other websites that have more resources, funding opportunities. So it's a great tool that's out there to make our jobs easier. So I know, you know, from the state office perspective, you get asked all different number of topics, or the State Office of Rural Health portfolio is just like all things rural health. So this is a great tool for you to use. So I think for those of you who've been around for a while and have been tapping into the RHIhub resources, this might be a refresher, but they're constantly changing what they do, how they frame things, building out new components. So it was a good refresher for me. We invited Christine to come talk to our hospital state division. So as project officers, we could kind of get a refresher for those of us who've been around for a while, or for the folks that are newer, kind of get a full scope picture of everything that they do. So for today, kind of listen to what the presentation is, see all the great resources that are out there for you, but then also think about from the community perspective, how can you as a SOR help to disseminate these resources so everybody else can kind of tap into it from the communities that you work with, but then also with your role as a SOR, you know, how are ways that you can help the RHIhub meet their goal of really being able to showcase what are those programs that are really working well. How can we continue to kind of amplify all the best practices that are out there across rural? So because you're kind of closer to the ground than we are on the Federal Office of Rural Health Policy, there's really easy ways that you can help share to RHIhub if you know of an interesting program, whether it's funded from our office or not. It's a great way to get it added to the scope of resources that they have. So we are very excited to have you here, Christine.
Great, thanks so much for those introductions to what we're going to talk about. And you know, that meeting we had with the Hospital State Division really was kind of the impetus for this session, and kind of gave me the idea that, you know, we really should be having this dialogue with state offices and making sure that what we're doing is meeting your needs, and you know, and exploring ways that we can work together more. RHIhub has been around, closing in on 19 years. So it seems like a good time to have that discussion again. And I'm going to share my screen. All right, can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. RHIhub is a partnership of the Center for Rural Health at the University of North Dakota, the Walsh Center for Rural Health Analysis, and RHIhub. And we're funded by the Federal Office of Rural Health Policy. So we've got a great team of folks working on this project and supporting us. And one thing that's, I think, great about the fact that our primary activities are located at the Center for Rural Health in North Dakota is that the Center for Rural Health is also the state office in North Dakota. So I think that really helps our staff to even more fully appreciate the value of state offices and how we can work together and kind of have that symbiotic relationship where we can help you and you can help us and refer folks back and forth and share each other's information. So we've really appreciated all of the support from state offices over the years and are just looking for ways that we can make that even more robust. And the slides I'm going to share today, for some of you, they may be pretty old hat in terms of, yeah, I use your website, I know what's on it kind of thing. But as I go through it, hopefully you can think about, are there ways that this could be better? Are there, do you have questions about anything? And just, kind of put that thinking hat on as I go through things today. And I've got a whole bunch of questions that I'll ask you at the end, but I hope that you'll also have some questions for me and some insights to share. So hopefully you have all been at ruralhealthinfo.org. So this is our website, and I'm not going to go through everything on the website because it's a lot. But hopefully you've all taken the time to become familiar with a lot of the resources that are available. So first I'll just mention the online library. And this is kind of the repository of resources and funding and events from all kinds of different organizations. So our staff basically scours the universe every day for new information about rural health and indexes that and tries to make it really easy for you all and people working at the local level, people working in federal government to find the resources and become aware of what's new. So the online library is where you can find that sort of information. And as you might expect, the funding section of the online library is very popular. People are looking for funding. So, hopefully if you have opportunities or know of funding opportunities or resources or events, you'll let us know about those so that we can share them widely with our audience. We also have topic guides on over 50 different topics. And you'll see some of the types of topics in that list there. And so what these topic guides do is provide an overview of the topic. And so why is this topic important to rural? What's different about it in rural? some stats, things like that are what you might find on the intro and frequently asked questions section. But also these topic guides have curated resources as well as organizations working in this area, funding, news, events, models, and innovations. So kind of bringing everything we have about a given topic together in one place. And we are always looking for expert reviewers on our topic guides. So if there are particular topics where you feel like you have expertise that you could share, we'd love to hear about that. We know that state office folks have really deep expertise. So yeah, please let us know if you're willing to serve as a reviewer. It's not a huge lift. Basically, it's reading through and giving comments on the introduction and FAQ section, so that we can make sure that the information we're providing is accurate and up to date. And so give that some thought. And hopefully you're all familiar with our state guides as well. And these guides are kind of similar to the topic guides, but bringing together things by state rather than by topic. So there's kind of a basic overview of each state, which is kind of standardized. And then sections for our chart gallery and resources and funding and the like. And this is something that we do have our information specialists working on these state guides reach out to you about once a year to see if you have any input on those state guides. And Alex Kavanaugh is our information specialist assigned to Region D. So hopefully you've all heard from him. And Alex, do you want to say hi?
I've contacted a few states. Still making my way through the first round of all of the states. So those who haven't heard from me will in the next few months.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. And Alex started with us last summer, so he's still working through that first batch of state updates. But Alex is a very fast learner, so feel free to throw things at him. He can handle it. And so I'll have some questions for you at the end about how we work with you on state guides and the value of those guides to folks in your state. But we do have kind of a new concept that we're working on for that main page. Let me go back. So this screenshot that I've got here is the current main page for the state guides. And what we're looking at is a much more visual representation of some of the same types of information, although we're hoping to go a little deeper as well. So we'll have maps and charts and that sort of thing, looking at demographics, at healthcare providers in the state, at social determinants, health outcome indicators, some information about access to broadband. And then one of the features that we're looking at is for those sections on social determinants as well as health outcomes would have these printable PDFs like you see on the right-hand side of the screenshot for health outcomes. And really it's kind of to give folks a takeaway, something that they can share and help people get back to the state guides and kind of promote those state guides, but also give people something of value that they can share with others. So, and again, I will get some of your thoughts about these at the end. We do have data visualizations on this site. We have some static maps, or as well as some interactive charts and graphs and maps, many of which are available at the state level, although there are a few that are just available at the national level. And then we have the Rural Data Explorer, which allows you to look at things just by metro or non-metro, as well as look at the data on select indicators for a particular state, and then down to the county level as well. So we're always working to improve that, and are happy to take your recommendations for how that could work better, or if there are other data sets that you think we could include. We'd love your input on that. So this next section of the website is case studies and conversations. And this is really kind of the place on the website where that sharing really can happen. So models and innovations, the Rural Monitor, which is our kind of our news magazine that we produce with articles about things that are happening in rural areas. We do some videos, and actually we just hired somebody to be our digital storyteller, who can do videos and podcasting. And so we're really looking to kind of ramp the video work back up. And we do webinars and Twitter chats. And then we've also shared information about the Rural Health Philanthropy Group that the Federal Office of Rural Health Policy and their partners have been sponsoring. So we really want to hear from state offices about the cool stuff that's happening in their states, whether it's a FORHP funded grantee that's doing something innovative, or it's whatever it is, I guess, that's interesting and innovative. So it could be a state level program that's focusing on rural, or it could be more that, local, something happening in one community. We're really interested to hear those stories. And, you don't necessarily need to know where it would fit on the RHIhub website, but, if you let us know, we can kind of see where it fits. I just had an example this morning. Somebody gave me a heads up about a program, and it's like, well, we kind of already featured something like that in the Rural Monitor, but I bet this would work for a model and innovation. So don't worry so much about the form, but let us know what's happening. So with our models and innovations section, we have over 300 program examples of things happening in rural areas. And with these, our writers work directly with people at the local level, or people who are involved in the program, to write up the information about it. That includes, a summary, what they did, what barriers they they might have come across, and what they think might be useful for other communities to know if they want to replicate the program, as well as what is our source and a contact. Pretty much all of our models have either contacts or a journal article associated with them that that would kind of serve instead of a contact. We just have a handful of those where we feel like people could get enough from the journal article that they could maybe replicate a program if there's in the absence of a contact. But by and large, most of them do have contact information for somebody who worked on the program. You know, we have heard instances of where people have reached out to the program and even gone on site visits to see how the program worked, and then gone back and replicated a program in their community. So these really do have value. And here's a little bit about what we're looking for in terms of models and innovations. So if it has some level of evidence, that's wonderful. A lot of programs maybe don't, but if there is a level of evidence, so if they have real positive evaluation results, or there's been a peer-reviewed article about the program, or if the program seems really innovative, you know, sometimes those innovative programs, it takes quite a while before you get to the level where there might be evidence. So we want to share that information about those innovative programs even before maybe that there's evidence. Also, if it seems like it's replicable, or there are important lessons learned from the program, that's really helpful for other communities as well. And then again, we'd want a contact person, both somebody who's interested in working with us, as well as somebody who'd be willing to have their contact information shared with our users and would be responsive to inquiries about the program. And our writers work really hard to minimize the amount of effort it takes from the program. They'll do research beforehand, and then interview people and write up the model that ends up on our website based on that interview, and then give people the chance to review it and make sure that it seems accurate. But we really do, we understand that rural people are busy, and we want to reduce the level of effort needed on their part. Then the last section of our site is called Tools for Success. And the MI Rural tool is in there, and I know some state offices and some schools have used the MI Rural tool with different programs they run, or to see if applicants are actually located in a rural area. Also in this section are evidence-based toolkits. And we currently have over 20 evidence-based toolkits that we've worked with our partners at NORC, as well as the Minnesota Rural Health Research Center to develop over the last, I think, about 10 years. The newest toolkit is maternal health. And these toolkits really focus on how to implement a rural program or an intervention in your community on these different topics. So focusing on things like, what are models that can be used? What are rural considerations? What needs to be done in terms of evaluation that might be a little different? And how do we disseminate information about the program? So these toolkits are really in depth, and if you haven't had a chance to look at them, I would encourage you to do so. RHIhub Updates, we have various ways that you can keep up to date on new things from RHIhub. RHIhub This Week is our weekly newsletter, and we also have custom alerts that you can set up on the site, and then RSS feeds. So this is RHIhub This Week, and it comes out Wednesday mornings, and you can learn about all the new things that we've added to RHIhub, both our original content like Rural Monitor articles or new toolkits or upcoming webinars, but also we include a lot of resources that we have discovered from other organizations, whether that's news or funding, resources or events. We don't include everything, but it's pretty comprehensive in terms of what we've found in the last week. So I'd encourage you to sign up for that if you're not already on our mailing list. You can sign up on most pages of our website. There's a little sign up box. And we'd also encourage you to share from RHIhub This Week or from the website. You know, share those resources with others. We're not concerned about, you know, if you want to just copy and paste the link and the blurb that we wrote, please do that. That's, you know, hopefully part of the value for state offices that you can get from RHIhub. And I also mentioned custom email alerts. So I think for people working in state offices, this is a great tool. You can set it up so you can just get things about your state. So you can get a list of everything that RHIhub has added about your state in the last day or the last week. You know, and you can also set them up for specific topics or specific types of either resources or news. So, you know, I'm hoping that is something that's really useful for SORHs. And then we do offer a resource and referral service. So people can call us or email and get help finding information if they haven't been able to find it elsewhere. And, you know, I'm hoping that you're all feeling comfortable referring people to us. You know, we do have those information specialists who can spend some time really digging in, trying to help people find the information they need. And you'll probably notice as well that sometimes we refer people to you because we know that, you know, you have information and knowledge about how things work in your state that's far beyond our knowledge of that. So again, it's really kind of that symbiotic relationship where you refer to us and we can refer to you and hopefully get people the information they need. And so this is my contact information. Feel free to reach out at any point to either me or to Alex or anyone else in our organization. And I should have had a staff photo, but we haven't all been together for well over a year, so it's been hard to do that. But we do have a great staff of folks who are all very dedicated to rural communities and to rural health. So that's the end of the formal presentation. And then I've got some questions for you, but does anybody have any initial thoughts or anything that you want to share?
If anyone wants to unmute or raise your hand or put in the chat.
So this is Gerald in Nevada. We also do the AHAC, and we were tasked with, we're working on putting together some tools for new grantees and writing grants for a continuing or a new competitive application. And I actually just copied your website. My portion of it was sustainability, and I actually just copied your, did some slides, but copied your sustainability resources off the RHI website, and it just great. Everybody was excited on the planning group to see those tools. So hopefully we'll be passing other HRSA funded programs your way, but it's just where I go, because there's always it's just a great place to find a conglomerate of things that are helpful. So I just wanted to shout out that thank you for those tools. So.
Oh, thanks. That's great.
And hopefully, I'm glad that you told me it was okay for me to do that, since I already did it. So.
And I've used the MI Rural, or actually referred others to the MI Rural frequently, because a lot of times things will come up about do they qualify for this particular grant or not for the rural aspects, or like with the CDC or some other grants that come up that you have to work in a rural area. Sometimes, and I say, check with this first, and then if you have a specific question, then come back to me about a particular area, and I can dig into it more. But that solves 90% of the questions about MI Rural right there. And then there's some few niggling factors, because we're Hawaii, and so things always get through the cracks in Hawaii. So.
Right. And, with the MI Rural, we've been trying to, over the last few years, make it more visual so people can really verify the location that they're indicating, because we're using a geocoding service from Bing to tell us where that location is. So every once in a while, it's off, and really there's not much we can do to control that, but we've really been working on providing those visual cues to help people realize if it's not the right location. So yeah, if you do hear anybody having any issues with it, let us know as well. So.
Right. I mean, most of the issues are just minor things. Again, it's due to our island nature and the way that our counties are set up. And, we have one county that's multiple islands. And most of that is identified correctly on RHIhub and the MI Rural. But every now and again, there's something that comes up that's a little weird, just because of the way that either the grant is talking about it, or if they allow us to use state definitions, which sometimes we're allowed to use, then that expands things a little bit more. So like I said, that solves about 90%, 95% of the things that I need to deal with rural. And then it's just the few things that fall through the cracks that I can quickly clarify.
Great. So when it comes to state pages and working with us on updating those state pages, and we hope that that's not a burden for you all. We really appreciate the help that we get on that, because we want to make sure we're getting the best information at the state level. So any thoughts on any of the questions here in terms of, is that process okay? Would, right now we're emailing, would a Zoom call work better? Or, does we want to make sure that we're asking you in a way that seems collaborative and not spammy. So any comments you have on that as well. And then, you know, any thoughts about the utility of those state pages and the proposed state page infographics that I showed you. And if you need me to go back to pages, just let me know.
I think the state pages are important, but I'll admit that I'm someone that I get the emails and I know it's important to do, and it's just sort of, but on the list of priorities of things to do, updating my state page for, and this goes for NOSO too, it's not the highest thing on my list of priority of things to do. So, you know, I apologize if I'm late in doing that, or it doesn't come, or yeah, I mean, or you have to keep reminding me to do it. But honestly, you know, maybe scheduling a Zoom, because a lot of times there's only a couple things that need to be updated. But I mean, just for me, I mean, that's the way it is for me, is that I go, yeah, I know I need to do it, but let me take care of these other 5 things first, and then I'll do it. And then in the middle of doing that 5 things, there's this other thing that comes in that has to be taken care of right away. And by the time I remember, oh yeah, I'm supposed to update that, you know, time has gone by. So and that's honest, that may just be me, but that is the way that I handle this sort of this page updates. And I'm always for more printable one-pagers and infographics. So those are always useful.
All right, any other thoughts on the state pages?
I don't see anything in the chat, Christine.
Okay. All right, so in terms of RHIhub this week and custom alerts, maybe if we want to start with RHIhub this week, any thoughts about what you like or what could be better about RHIhub this week?
I sometimes wish it could be shorter. It's a great resource. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that occasionally I'll see the RHIhub this week, and again, so many things to do, is just sort of
right.
Quickly scroll through to see if there's anything really important that I need to jump on. But yeah, I think it's a great resource. It's very comprehensive. You could almost get rid of all the other updates I get from other places, and if I just kept the RHIhub this week, I'd still feel informed, pretty well informed about what's happening.
Yeah, and that length issue is not a new issue. It's something we've kind of struggled with for a while, and you know, because we have users that are kind of from a diverse or have diverse needs, you know, sometimes it's hard to cut things and make it shorter. So we just have focused. I don't know how
you would, honestly. Like I said, it is very comprehensive, and I know what it is when I see it, and I know that it's going to be long. So like, if I'm busy, quickly skim it and see what's in there. If I have time, then take the time to basically read through as much as I can. So, and I've not used the custom alerts. That's something that I'm going to have to test out and try. So.
And this is Gerald. I kind of do the same in Nevada. Do the same with the RHIhub this week. I just skim it and whatever gets my interest, that's what I go for. But I didn't know about the custom alerts either, so probably you told us about them, but I didn't sign up, so that's one thing we'll do.
Yeah, well, and I hope you like them. You know, I think, you know, in my mind, from a state office point of view, it would be nice to know what's new that's been added for your state, and you know, probably a lot of times you'll know about it, but we considered SORHs as one of the kind of key audiences when we were developing that tool. So, so hopefully it works. They work for you. Is there anybody that has used them that wants to share?
Christine, this is Matt. Sorry, I'm not on video. I don't know what's happening. It won't let me. But there is a question in the chat. They said, would it be possible to have custom infographics, sort of a drag and drop tool to build your own one pager, or perhaps that's something for the future?
I will write that down. Yeah, it's, you know, not something that would probably be easy to do, but as we're considering what we want to do with some of these, you know, state pages and other data visualization, that's definitely something that we can talk about, the feasibility of that. So thanks for that suggestion. All right. Any thoughts on referrals between RHIhub and SORHs? Seem to be working okay. Are you getting the results you want when you refer people to us? Or are you ever getting referrals from us that you don't think are appropriate? You know, and that's something too. If that happens, please let us know in real time, too, so we can make any corrections if we need to. But any thoughts on this one?
I don't know that I've ever gotten any RHI referrals. If I have, that must have been appropriate. So, but I don't know. And I've always felt comfortable referring people to RHIhub. It's just, yeah, a lot of times it just takes a load off of me, just sort of, you know, the best place to go for this is, you know, and direct them to the website. And I've even directed them sometimes that if there's a specific question that the website doesn't cover, that they can always call or email the people at RHIhub too for specifics when I don't know it. So
Great. All right. And then, you know, I talked about sharing things that are happening in your state. So is there anything that we can do to make it easier for you to share?
So I, you know, as I look at our office in Nevada, because I think a lot of things happen and we just get so busy doing them that, but I'm thinking, you know, we have some administrative assistants within our office that would probably, I mean, if you got those folks on top of it instead of us, that might be a way to do that. I have a couple of people in our office that would hound us every month to make sure that we're providing that information to you. So maybe, and I don't know if other folks are the same way, but I get so busy I wouldn't even think about it. And it would be an email that I would pay attention to tomorrow when I had time. Not that you're not important, but I think maybe looking at that, you know, maybe us putting down a different contact, somebody who could have that as a responsibility would be a better thing for us. Just an idea.
I'll also say that it's sometimes difficult to identify the cool things that are happening in your state, at least from what we're doing at an office perspective, because what other people think is cool is stuff that we just do day in, day out. So I don't necessarily think it's cool. It's just something that we do. And so, yeah, maybe I don't know how to make it easier or anything like that. But honestly, I honestly don't think that we're doing all that much. That's much. We're always borrowing from each other. So that's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily think it's cool. We may just put a little bit different twist on it to deal with our population. But again, it's sort of, we stole it from California, or we stole it from New Jersey, or something like that. We heard a great idea, we took it, we adapted it, but I don't necessarily think it's something. I myself just don't think of it as something new or innovative, because they did it, we just adapted it, but not thinking about the fact that adaptation is part of what.
Right.
Do for innovation. So, but then you start doing it successful, and then you start doing it, and then just becomes part of the background of this is something that we do. So,
Right.
other people, let's hear from people other than Scott and Gerald.
I just want to say, Scott, I will always look at yours because I think you're cool. So that'll get my attention. So put it on there.
Okay, Gerald, I'll speak up. Because I've been listening.
I'm curious about something that I think, is an important function. And Christine, as I listen to people respond to your questions, I feel like we should have like a confessional booth, perhaps about what we wish we would have, could have, should have done to help. And so it's, it's a clear indication that there's a fire hose of information. But like Chris Salyers said in the chat, it is that Rural Monitor is a great newsletter. And I am curious if state offices of rural health, taking kind of Gerald's idea, have you assigned somebody in your office, an administrative assistant could do it, a student intern could do it, an entry-level person, to be scanning certain news updates, FORHP, the Rural Monitor, hopefully you'd add NOSOR to your list, those kinds of things, so that that it's really a staff function that supports your own information dissemination if you're writing a newsletter, B, updates that you need for your own office, and ways to if you have staff meetings, I don't know if people still do that. I think they're important for us to talk to each other about that, it's kind of a little standard agenda item on your report out. I think I don't know how many do that. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to include the Rural Monitor, some of those custom alerts, if there's a topic you're digging into, or certainly checking your state updates. Hey, I didn't know this was going on in my state, would be a nice thing that people want to contribute, to the office overall. Sometimes I think our admin professionals have somewhat of a little disconnect, and it's such an important role that they can play to help us with that. Just a thought. I'm curious if anybody does that already. What kind of scanning do you maybe keep each other up to date about? Maybe
Tabor,
not.
what were you going to bring up, Tabor?
Well, I just thought I'd be quiet. Terrell just kind of like said what I was. I'm just kind of ruminating on the fact that we do have a reports and publication page, and I'm sorting my way through some of these national publications that we use a lot here. And the Inventory of State Health Workforce Data Collection that HWTAC had put together is they used to have this chart showing all of this health workforce. They basically dropped it because it wasn't really giving their proper information and routed it directly to our reports and publication page. So I'm thinking that if we wanted to get our information out there, yes, there's a two-way street on this. Yes, we can submit things. Now remember, my focus is health workforce, but Gerald has me working on some AHEC stuff, and I do things for the Office of Rural Health. And as I'm sorting my way through things, Chris, you're part of, well, not used to be, but that data summit that is put together every year, that the sharing of that information amongst those attendees may be the best thing that I've ever learned from about people, their programs, the scope. And I was just going through something that North Dakota had put together, and I'm looking at the notes that I did from the last one, and it scanned so much information that I'm not quite sure how there needs to be a little bit more integration here, because I, as a project manager here, I don't think of RHIhub as my place for going for data and looking for data. I'm actually going to sources, and I feel that there was something that was amiss, that it's not high on my list of first places to go. But I thought it was great that the other group said, well, if you want to know about Nevada, go to their reports and publication page. So I'm just kind of throwing that out for general ideas.
Yeah, good point, Tabor. And Christine, I believe that there's representation at most, if not all, of those rural summits. And I think that was kind of where some of the idea for the data visualization tools and stuff kind of started ruminating, kind of building that basic data literacy kind of thing.
Right, and giving people hopefully easy access to some of those indicators at the county level or the state level, however it's useful for folks. So yeah, that definitely has been a useful group for us as well. One other question.
Oh, sorry.
One other question is, so if we're looking for examples around a specific topic, what's the best way to engage with state offices? A couple examples, we're working on upcoming Rural Monitor articles, one around teen mental health, and another around doulas working in rural areas, and how they can contribute to maternal health. So what's the best way to connect with you all around that, if we just kind of have that inkling of an idea?
I think I go back to my idea, because you get inundated with so many emails and we're managing multiple projects. I think to have a single point of contact for each state office of rural health that hounds us, and I need to be hounded, I really think that would be helpful. When you come in and do your 75 emails, you just put some aside, and I apologize. Sometimes I just never get back to them because you're responding to the next 75. But if we could maybe just come up with single points of contacts for the state offices of rural health, that then would make that, we could put that as part of an activity that they do that's supported by their salary in the grant. I think, as I'm thinking through this, both for new reports that come out, we talk about these things at staff meeting, but it's not a standard operating procedure that we shoot that off to you guys, or for new projects, and for them to ask the question each time, is this something to go to RHIhub, might be the most beneficial thing we did with us. And then you would have a single point of contact if you're, doing some digging, and they can get the information back to you, or you may not get a response from a slacker like myself. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting idea and something that, we could have that conversation with each state office about who is that one person who wants to kind of be our liaison or single point of contact. That, and sometimes it might be the director, but as you mentioned, sometimes it might be someone else. But for all of our staff to know who that one person is, I think would be helpful.
And one of the other things that and you may do this, and I may just not read the right thing, but we've had so many funding opportunities coming out recently, to do a summary of resources on, and I know I've seen that sometimes, but it seems like we've been inundated with so many, funding opportunities and other opportunities to categorize those as far as that funding opportunity goes with rural, and what resources are there. I think would be, helpful and might sometimes cut us from having to sort through the website to try to find it. We just go to that link. And is that something you do? And if it is, I apologize that I haven't done that that way. Usually I just go to the hub and do my own search.
So like what's kind of
like the most recent one with telemedicine, and I know you've got a lot of telemedicine resources there, but they're asking for some specific things. I think within that funding opportunity, there are 4 things you can have to include and 2 things that you might include. Data and articles and projects that are doing those specific things that we could go reach out to and look for. You know what I mean? Those types of things where it's a little bit farther into the application. And I know maybe you don't have time to do that, but that to me would be helpful. And does that make sense, what I'm asking?
So you're looking for something more in depth than our typical funding summary, is that?
Well, I think the funding summary, but what, as you go through those funding summaries, there are usually, things that you need to include in there or different aspects that you're looking for. Maybe some links to some resources you have on your website that have to do with those applications or the specific things that application might be looking for. Does that make sense? And I tried to use the example of the most recent. So FORHP just put out the telemedicine application. And within that application, they're asking us to respond to potentially 4 or 5 different topic areas for telemedicine, and then 2 potential areas. And maybe, that kind of gets us thinking as we look at those funding opportunities. Hey, that's something we could do, or we could partner, or we know who to. I just trying to think of ways, I get those funding opportunities, and oftentimes that's how I link to them. But I'm just wondering if there might be another step there that might be resourceful, and maybe other states can chime in and say we can do that ourselves. But I'm just thinking that might be a resource.
So if I'm understanding correctly, the funding summaries might include, you'll need stats about this, here's where to find them, or
yeah, or they're asking for this type of project. Here are 4 projects that you might look at for replication, or whatever those types of things are.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. We'll have to talk about if that's something that we'd have the manpower to do, but yeah, I can definitely see what the utility would be there.
Because I also know as we provide technical assistance, and I'm sorry, Scott, I'm talking too much, and you can come on and smack me. But as we're doing our technical assistance on those grants, it might be a really good place for us to send, a rural community to get some quick linkages as they're putting their applications together. Or people they can reach out to. So anyway,
right. Okay. Yeah. Interesting
and
idea.
Gerald, this is Christy Martinson with FORHP. So I have a thought on that too that I can go back and share with my colleagues. I know in recent years we've been trying to link to where we know there's kind of general resources about something. So oftentimes that means we link back to RHIhub in the specific topic area. So that is something I can take back to my colleagues a note and just see if that's something they could consider for future NOPOs as well.
Okay, thanks.
Right, you know, and some of the ones that are funded by FORHP, we do have models and innovations, you know, of things that have been funded by that program in the past. So that, you know, for those programs, that would probably be pretty easy to do. So yeah, I think it's something that we can definitely look at and see what we can do there. It's an interesting idea for sure. All right. So I just had a couple of more things. I mentioned that we're looking at doing some podcasts. So if there are any ideas about what kind of podcasts that would be useful, you know, is it policy wonk kind of podcast? Is it what, you know, what programs are happening in rural areas, and, you know, kind of more that here's what's been working kind of podcasts. And then any thoughts you'd have about where you would listen to an RHIhub podcast? You know, is it in the car or in the office, or and so then what kind of length would be ideal for you all? Any thoughts about podcasts?
I find podcasts to be very informative. I think that some ideas would be podcasts that are centered around best practices, where states that are doing similar work can come together and kind of share what they've learned from that work to kind of develop some best practices. One area in particular is like around, you know, maternity care in rural areas. What are states doing to move those efforts forward? And I listen to them in my car, but I also listen to them if it's something that our office is working on. I will play it in my office, and we will, I'll have the team come in and listen to it so that we can have a conversation around it.
Great. All right, and I'm just taking some notes. So, and I see there was something in the chat about listening to podcasts while traveling.
Christine, this is Cheryl. I like that the podcast on NPR that's I think it's Pop Culture Podcast. And what I like about it is that there's always a kind of a variety, you know, they're mostly looking at culture and entertainment and all that, but I kind of like the idea that, oh, I'm keeping up, which I'm not, with popular culture when I listen to it. And I wonder about if I'm keeping up with what's in the news around what's come out for funding, cool research, promising practice, a special event, that kind of thing. I've tried to figure out if NOSOR could do that once or twice and haven't gotten. There's another confessional booth item, but I do like that idea of, you know, tuning in, you know, just, you know, what's cool happening, what came out. Hey, and, you know, hey, state offices, you might want to hear about this, or, you know, there's call for comments about health equity and addressing it in government. You know, we could, as an organization, kind of, you might, amongst your Rural Health Association colleagues that we get together with, you know, throw you something that would go, we thought this was cool. Certainly you can, the FORHP, gleaning the FORHP happenings more related. You know, I think of podcasts for state offices, and I love the idea around topics that we're interested in too. So yeah, I like the idea of knowing that I'm kind of up on things something cool that happened in the legislature. Alan Morgan could do what happened in the legislature, and maybe Wanda would do cool research. Maybe somebody would do funding opportunities, not just in FORHP, but that we see around rural.
Right.
I'd love to target that for state offices for a quick listen. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you know,
On my wish list.
listening to what Terrell's saying, it strikes me that, you know, since there's been a comment about the newsletter being amazing, but sometimes a lot to wade through, I wonder if the newsletter could be delivered kind of via a podcast.
Yeah, I just thinking our local newspaper here does the Herald Minute every morning, and it's like a 1-minute podcast talking about here's what's in the paper today, and I spend the 1 minute every morning listening to it, and if anything piques my interest, then I can go find it, and so yeah, it's kind of a similar concept. I think highlighting, except, we're probably not highlighting our own stuff as much as just things we're finding. But yeah, I think, kind of as a complement to the newsletter and the website, that's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought about that.
Chris Salyer's comment in the thing is he likes what Spotify does for 5 or 10 minute podcast clips. I like that too. And I think that you heard, you're in the confessional booth with everybody saying they don't have enough time. They wish they had more time. They would do that. I think that would be, I don't think that's unusual in rural health. So it'd have to be really targeted. So maybe you do research 1 week, maybe do funding another, you could have some themes or like, or maternal child health or something like that. I wouldn't make myself crazy making hour-long broadcasts unless it's a really good story.
Yeah, and we're really in the very initial phases of this. So these are great suggestions.
Love to see that come true.
So yeah, and then I guess the last question would just be, what else can we do to make your life easier, to help your staff, work with new SOAR staff? How can we help? Anything else?
So and I hate to talk again, but I'm just thinking about how our news releases and things flow out now, and it's very centrally located through, we're a medical school based ORH. So if we put them as one of the contacts for those releases for rural stories that we do, that would be a really good way for, as we have announcements, they could go directly to you. And you do that with other states or other organizations with, their PR departments already, or would that be helpful to you, or?
To have them send us?
Yeah, to have them send you when those things happen, or?
Yeah, that would be great if you have staff like that who can.
Well, they're not part of the Office of Rural Health. They're part of the overall university structure, but I think I could maybe get them to, when you do a rural, blast it to these folks too, because they love it being put on a web page someplace else. So
right,
any rural piece, yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. Or if there's a web page that we can watch that has just the rural stuff, that would be great too, because we can pick things up pretty easily by watching web pages.
Okay, thanks.
All right, anything else?
Don't see anything else in the chat. Think
All
we're
right.
good?
Well, I think we're good. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time and for your great suggestions. I think we've got some real gems here of ideas. So thank you for working with us on this, and you know, call us anytime.
Thanks, Christine. I appreciate it. I'm sorry that I'm not on video. Ring Central has decided that my camera is no longer worthy of a camera. So I can't join you guys to say goodbye, but again, thank you, Christine, and all of our speakers, again, to the Planning Committee for putting this together, to FORHP for your support on the regional meetings. And Trevor is going to put the link to the survey for the meeting into the chat. I hope you all will please fill that out and give us some feedback on the regional meeting, and always want to hear some new topics from you guys about what you think we should focus on future meetings. So I appreciate that. Like I said, I wish I could be on video right now. I was complaining to Chris earlier that it just stopped. He just kept ticking me off, and then I would just freeze. But before we go, Gerald, are you still there? If you lean back just perfectly, you get an Einstein thought bubble above your head. Oh, come on. It was doing it earlier. It was like this perfect Einstein thought bubble. You have to move like directly under it.
So I had hair?
There it is. Oh,
Yeah.
did you see it?
Gerald, it's that thing that we've told you about, what we see in the meetings, where it just kind of does this little fade and then this thing kind of pops up.
Well, I
Got
want
that
you to think,
picture hanging on the wall, if I remember right, of Einstein, right?
yeah, when
Yeah.
I just want you, when you think of me, think of how smart I am. It's just that, subliminal message. So, bring further than, as you were talking about podcasts, I was thinking that I ought to learn how to listen to podcasts, because I don't. So I'm not that smart. So.
Yeah, I had to make a comment to Chris. I was like, for a minute there was just this perfect Einstein thought bubble above Gerald's head, and I thought it was great. Anyways, obviously, next year, 2022, we will be in Reno. Finally, 3 years, 2.5 years later, however long it's been since we were there. So those are our plans for next year. But thank you guys for being here, for participating in this. I think it was a great 2 days, and plus if you guys were here for the pre-meeting on Tuesday, I'm going to have to readjust my life from Pacific time back to Eastern time here.
So Terrell, for all of us, while you have us online and whoever would like to talk, could you talk about what you're planning on Monday?
I'm sorry, sure.
Yeah.
I want to say good job to Trevor and Matt and Chris too on the regional meeting, so that we get that in there. Thank you for all of this.
Yes, thank you.
Had
Awesome.
a nice pace to it and good content, and the planning committee did a great job picking
Yes, they
topics.
did.
So thank you for that. So Monday, and I'm not sure exactly why it's not in your inbox just yet. It might have come in just in the last minute or so. We are planning a webinar with the target audience of rural health clinics. And we're going to go through and try to encourage the rural health clinics to apply for RHC COVID funding. We're going to say things that might not be expected from a federal project officer, but I'm going to be very direct in the that's already been said, exactly how do you come up with